Good evening, everybody. Now that it is getting cold and yucky outside, we're going to be spending a lot more time doing training sessions, especially in the members area. We're going to be doing, I've got a bunch of them, the scanning. But on Thursday nights, we're going to be concentrating on specific signals and patterns. Because a lot of times when we go through 6 or 8 of them on a training, or it doesn't sink in. So the reason we want to kind of emphasize the fact that these signals work extremely well. And so the whole philosophy is, if we can see the markets going up, and it only goes up for a period of time before it turns around, we want to find the positions that are going to go up the hardest, fastest during that time frame, that they're just not lollygagging on its way up. We want the strong ones. And the best friend is that. We have about 6, 8 very good, strong patterns or signals, but the best friend is your top one. We do a session where we quantify about 18 of the signals and patterns combinations. And it's always the best friend is on the top. It has extremely good probabilities for putting you in with exact timing, because it illustrates after a doji. Now here it is. Pattern setup is usually you're in a downtrend. Prices are in the oversold area, which means the stochastics are below 20. My stochastics are 1233. And then it does a doji in the oversold area or spinning top, just shows indecision. And then after that, no, the kicker signal is the strongest signal, Phil. But the reason I make the best friend number one is because you might see 5 or 6 good best friend signals for every one kicker signal. So the kicker signal is the strongest, but it doesn't occur often enough. So the best friend provides a lot of opportunities and very strong price moves. So the kicker signal's up there near the top. It's just the frequency of a best friend is much greater than a kicker signal. So after you see that doji in the oversold area, the next day the price gaps up above any of the previous day's trading range of the doji, which means it's gapping up above any of the price move or price range. You can use it for analyzing anything. If you're analyzing the Dow, if you see that doji gap up, that tells you there's been a dramatic change of investor sentiment. So we, to hopefully illustrate everybody in this quick presentation, is that doji gap up illustrates a very strong price move. Do you have a formula? Yes. And I'm guessing it's probably down in the folder there in the very bottom right-hand corner. But if we can assume that a doji followed by a gap up is one of your strongest signals, then we can make 2 plus 2 analysis. One, it gapped up through the T line and the 50 and broke this trend. You could be buying. If you saw this happening on that day, you could be buying, or knowing that if it opened positive the next day, this has been a very strong reversal. So that doji gap up, especially through different resistance levels, That power reveals you're going to have a strong price move. So anytime you see you're in the oversold area and they've gapped up, just assume there's been a very strong change of investor sentiment, and that's going to be your result. So if you see that doji gap up through the 50, where do you think your next likely target's going to be? The 200. So we've got people right now apparently in surf. There was your best friend gap up, and today it closed right here. Yeah, Phil, feel free to share it. So this is a very simple assumption. You see they gap up from the 50, they're going to the next target. Do you have multiple dojis before a gap up or just one? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's still a doji gap up, whether there's 1 or 20. It's the doji gap up at that point. Remember what a doji represents. Indecision. What does 7 represent? A lot of indecision. It's the factor that they've told you what their decision's going to be after that doji. And it works just as well on the short or on the bullish side as it does on the bearish side. There's your kind of your doji hanging man, gap down. And you can use it for would TORY gap be considered a best friend even though the gap traded down? Yeah, it would be a bearish best friend. Yeah, it's still a strong signal if, now find one, or if you have a doji and then they open up positive, even if it's in the trading range. Now that's just a doji with bullish confirmation. But what shows more strength or more confirmation? The doji gap up. That's why we call it your best friend, because it's illustrating that after a day of indecision, there's a very strong buy. So again, 2 plus 2. Doji right smack dab off the 50 and they gap it up. How long do you hold on to this one? Well, you can see where the sell signal started up here. Where would you purchase this J-hook type pattern? There's your doji gap up starting the next uptrend. And this is all being confirmed by your stochastics curling back up. So a lot of people say, well, there's a bunch of signals and patterns. How do you ever narrow down to which one do you really want to buy? If you learn, or if you want to learn which ones are the strongest, the top ranked signals and patterns, I've often told people that if I could make a good living just trading the best friend, the kicker signal, maybe the J-hook or slash bobble breakout, the fry pan bottom breakout, I could stop there and have enough trades to keep me more than occupied all the time. Do you have a scan for TC2000? For the best friend, yes. It's. I thought they just, RJ, look up a little bit more. I think Jim already put in the formulas. So would you enter it gaps up and stays up versus the next day? If you're watching it, yes. Yeah, RJ, Jim posted the formulas. Scroll back up. You'll find the formulas. All right, let me make sure I've got all. Allie, I'll have to look at TLR later. Okay, so this is what you expect. A doji gap up after trading flat or even in a fry pan bottom type pattern, tells you there's been a major change. And then we go to our next criteria. How long do you hold on to this until you see a sell signal and a close back below the T line? So this is the expectation. 2 plus 2. They doji gap up through the resistance level of the 50, kind of coming out of a rounding bottom. You just stay long. May have taken some profits here, but then it set up a J-hook pattern. But the whole implication is that once you see this, you can pretty much assume there's a strong bullish sentiment now in that trend. So if you see a fry pan bottom breakout with a doji best friend, yahoo! That's just high probability expected results. Whoops, I didn't scroll down. If price moves more than 5% gap up day, Val, it doesn't matter what the percentage is. Now, as a matter of fact, it doesn't matter what the percentage is. A lot of people would be hesitant to buy a stock that's already up 5, 10, 15, 20, 40, 80%. Well, if we can see what the pattern was and what the breakout signal was, that keeps you from being hesitant. That's exactly why we're analyzing these charts, is what does human nature do coming out of a fry pan bottom? Or let's go one step further. What does this tell us is going on? There's a fry pan bottom, which we know what the expected results should be. So this is not rocket science. This is just identifying what the Japanese rice traders have seen for hundreds of years of what occurs in human nature. It wouldn't matter whether this was a 5-minute chart, a 30-minute chart, a daily chart, or a monthly chart. Investor sentiment works the same way time after time. This reduces that hesitancy to get into something that's already gapped up. So this is what the expected results hopefully will be. So it can even be in a signal. There's your morning star signal. And what happened over here on the left-hand side, right-hand side? There was your best friend gap up, making this morning star signal very strong. So if I didn't see it on this day, what were all the things that told me this was a very strong buy? 1, morning star signal. 2, a best friend gap up. 3, a close above the T-line. 4, stochastics coming out of the oversold area. 5, if it trades positive, what's it confirming? It's confirming our morning star signal and telling us that the T-line's not going to act as resistance. Whoops, and I added another one in here. The 50-day moving average was not going to act as resistance anymore. So we call this 2 plus 2 or convergence analysis because the more pieces of evidence that we can put into our visual analysis instantly, the higher the probabilities that the bulls have taken control. The T-line is the 8 exponential moving average, yes. If you're, scroll down, okay, yep. 5-minute, 10-minute chart. You see candles forming a pattern. Would you treat it the same as a daily chart? No, you go backwards. First of all, I'm looking at my daily chart. Which way is it moving? Now, if I suspect it's going to be moving up, now if I go and watch my 5-minute and 10-minute chart and they're doing patterns that I expected to go in, I'll be buying off those charts. Yes, these are older charts, but these are just to kind of illustrate what was happening. I'll get to the newer charts here in a minute, Jay. This is right now just showing you what the results of a best friend signal should be. I'm not even sure how old this one is. I'm just kind of illustrating what we're looking for. And so as I do these are the accumulation of observations from before, from a long time ago, to illustrate why the current charts should be working. Let's see, all right, and absolute around May 20th. Yeah, so let me get down here. Best friend has also happened in oversold area. It works much more effectively in oversold area down here. But it also works very effectively for showing you what type of pattern is setting up when you might, like a J-hook pattern, which we'll get to. When you said range, that includes that's the wick that you're trading. Now, you can have let's say, for example, this had a wick up here, and then it opened up in that wick. It still traded positive from where it closed. But in this case, the fact that it opened above any of the previous day's trading, that now becomes a best friend signal. So one of your reversal signals is a doji with bullish confirmation the next day. And further confirmation is a doji followed by a gap up above any of the trading range of the previous day. Let's see. You use any other moving averages or lower indicators on your charts besides what we see now? No, don't need to. Remember, the top criteria for candlestick analysis is the signal itself. Everything else on the chart is just confirming indicators. I could take everything else off this chart and have the stochastics and the signals, and that would work effectively. Or stochastics, first of all, the signal, stochastics, and the T-line. The only reason we have the 50, the 200, the 34 EMA on here is to see what everybody else is doing at levels that they're watching. So, did I answer that correctly? Do you use that other? You can, PS, you can put whatever you want to on your chart. Again, the top criteria is the signals themselves. Anything else you put on the chart should be adding to your ability to recognize when there's been really a reversal. So if somebody says, put the XYZ indicator on your chart, well, if you put it on there for 2 or 3 weeks and it doesn't seem to help, take it back off. The more simple your trade chart is, the better you're going to be able to analyze what's happening right here and then seeing whether it's confirming. So again, we know that the further away you move from the T-line, the higher the probability that reversal is going to work. So if I see a doji that far away from the T-line in the oversold area and they gap it up the next day, where do you think the first target's going to be? Back to the T-line. Then we can see what happens from there. And this is what I call observe the obvious. There's a bullish doji harami right smack dab on the 50 in the oversold area, and they gap it up the next day as a best friend. 2 plus 2. The 50 was where everybody was buying. The doji harami was where the selling had stopped. The next day when they gapped it up, everybody was convinced the 50 was going to act as support. That gave a high probability that the next trend was in progress. All right. My stochastics are 12.33, and that's nothing set in stone. One night, somewhere between 30 and 40 years ago, I was sitting in my living room office, and they just started putting candlesticks on the internet. Before then, I was getting a chart out of California called Stock Charts. It would arrive on Tuesday, and I would go through the charts, and I had a Quotrex, and I would use my mechanical pencil and make the candlestick signals way at the right end of my chart. And by the end of the week, all my charts looked like chicken scratch. Then they started putting it on the internet. And the common practice back then was to use 14.55, but I was a swing trader, so I wanted something a little bit faster. So I just spent an evening, wasn't even an evening, probably 30 minutes, trying 14.32 or 12.55 or 13.54, and eventually came up with 12.33 that pretty much indicated that they were topping out when the price was topping out, and they were bottoming out when the price was bottoming out. Okay. What RSI source do you use? Oh, I don't use RSI. I mean, you can. Use whatever you think is beneficial. I was the worst investor in the world. I was even a stockbroker for 8 years. I got out of the business because I realized the brokerage firms had no more idea what made stocks go up or down than the man on the moon. I was hoping that I would have somebody that could direct me, and they couldn't find it. Then a few years later, somebody dropped candlesticks on my desk. At that time, I was buying houses in Atlanta, Georgia, renovating them and reselling them. And they said, "Here, you're a stockbroker. What do you think of candlesticks?" And I didn't even look at it for 3 months because I figured anything as sophisticated sounding as candlesticks wasn't worth the time and effort to look at. But they kept badgering me. So when I started looking at it, the first thing that whacked me in the side of the head was, this makes sense. And the more I studied it, the more sense it made. So how about stochastic settings in Trading View? Mark, if that's a charting platform or a trading platform, you use all the same settings. Now some, you might just have to use 12 and 3. Did you look at it while you had candlelight dinner? No, back then I was all by myself. So anyways, here's the logic. If you see candlestick reversal signal, it's a reversal signal because it's created by everybody buying and selling right at a level that everybody is watching. See what type of signals those are. So if I was watching this and they gapped it up the next day and I could see that it's going to be closing above the T line, I'd be buying. Or if I did my scan and saw this, then I'd be buying the next day. Because I know the probabilities based upon that signal right there is that we're starting the next wave up. So anytime I can add 2 plus 2, there's a doji sitting smack dab on the 50 in the oversold area, and they gap it up. That's when you want to start buying. Where do you think the next target would have been on this one? Probably up here at the 200, the top of that channel. So simply stated, the power of the best friend signals are illustrating dramatic strength. So 2 days ago, QuantumScape announced they had a contract with a major manufacturer. And what did it create? A doji best friend gap up. Now, because we were watching this, we were already accumulating because we kind of know the story of what's going on with QuantumScape. we were adding more. The next day, it should have confirmed. Well, it didn't. Well, we have very simple entry strategies. If this traded positive and came back through the open, what was it illustrating? It was illustrating that the force of this best friend signal was still in effect. And it was up big today. Again, back to that rhetorical question. Do you always get big moves on your signals? Definitely not. But the signals pretty much put us in situations where the probabilities of being in big price moves are much greater. So the signal itself tells you there's a drastic change. We started buying LPI on this best friend signal, doji, gap up through the 200, close above the T-line. So when you did your scan and we found this, if it opened positive, what were all the things that it was telling us? You had a best friend signal coming up through the 200, closing above the T-line, that if it opened positive, it was telling you it was confirming the signal, number one. It was telling you that the T-line was not acting as resistance, number two. And it was breaking this downtrend, number three. The stochastic's coming up. The probability said you're in an uptrend. Now, how long was that uptrend? We're still in this position. And what's our T-line rule? You stay long until you see a sell signal and a close below the T-line, with the caveat that the further away you get from the T-line, the higher the probability is going to come back and test it. John, no, it's not too late to buy quantum. Now, I'd probably watch for some profit taking, but we're buying this both now on a short-term basis for the trade and the long-term hold. That if they ever develop or get their solid-state lithium battery finished, I think this is going to be back up to $100 to $150 stock. But again, what I say doesn't mean a hill of beans. You let the chart tell you what it's doing. Thank you, Gary. All right. Well, Ali, tell AJ, I haven't talked with AJ in quite a few years. I used to be on his TV program that he had down in Florida. Tell AJ I said hello. He's a good guy. Do you buy when the best friend signal appears at the same day, or is it better to wait for the next day? Richard, usually I'm not going to find it. Now, we were buying this one on this day because we've been accumulating QuantumScape for more of a longer term hold. Because again, I think if they can ever get there, and they've been spending 10 years, I hate to go into the fundamentals of something, but they've been developing the solid state lithium battery for 10 years, and they must have things that are relatively convincing, because Volkswagen has put in hundreds of millions of dollars into their research. I think George Soros and Bill Gates have put a lot of money in it. And so this announcement the other day was that a major auto parts manufacturer is going under contract with them. Now, and I'm getting way off track here, but just that knowledge means they've apparently got enough information to show people that they're on the right track for developing it, that they're doing contracts with people. So that's just, people are looking at it and saying that they're getting close. So that's why I think the buying's coming in. John, I buy lots of stocks where I buy something, then I may close it out and then have to buy it back. But I go on one parameter. I buy when it's telling me it's time to buy. I sell when it's telling me it's time to sell, and I buy when it's telling me it's time to buy. Kevin, have no idea. Remember, tomorrow the T-line may be up here. So again, I'm just buying the signal. Remember, the T-line is just a confirming indicator. Yes, and then the other side of that coin is we always get people saying, can we be buying here? Can we be buying here? Can we be buying here? The answer is, where should you have been buying? So you go back and say, you get a little bit more education mentally for yourself that this was a good place to be buying. And then your question is, if I'm buying here, is this the best place to be buying something? Or is there another chart out there someplace that looks more like this? And the reason you can do that is because every single day when you do simple scans with candlestick analysis, you're going to come up with 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 good chart setups. So the question is, are you better off buying something here or finding a chart that looks like this that's where the probabilities are much greater in your favor? Gary, my normal portfolio is never more than, or approximately 10 positions. And I always give the illustration that Susie Orman says you should never have more than 4% of your money in any one position. Well, that means you have 25 positions. And I always go back to the illustration that they pay analysts on Wall Street millions and millions of dollars to follow 6 or 8 stocks, and they can't do that very well. How do they expect somebody to be following 25 stocks? So I have it at 10. Now I'm getting way off track. The reason for that is I have 10 equal positions because that way I don't have my emotions in any trade. Each trade is one unit of my portfolio. And 10 is a number where each position is going to be a significant factor to my returns on my total portfolio, but they're not going to be big enough that if something gets devastated, it's not devastating the whole portfolio. Which moving average use? All right. The 200 is the 200 simple moving average, and the 50 is the blue simple moving average, 50-day moving average. The reason they're on these charts is because every major money manager around the world uses those moving averages to make their decisions. A lot of people say, well, aren't you better off using the exponential? We're not using these to make our decisions. We're using these to see what everybody else's decisions are. What about in this market? Would you reduce your positions? Not necessarily, no. Because at any given time, I might have 3 short positions on and 7 long positions. Or if I think the market is rip-roaring strong, and we'll get to these as we get to the live charts, I might have 8 longs, 2 shorts. And some of the positions, like this one, even when the market pulled back, it never closed below the T-line. So the analysis of 10 positions each night should take approximately 45 seconds. I can look at this chart on any night and say, yep, still above the T-line, 3 seconds, I'm on to the next one. If the market gets junky, whipsawing up or down, and prices aren't moving either long or short, yes, occasionally I'll be heavier in cash. But I would say 95% of the time I'm fully invested because there's always way too many, or let's put it this way, there's always enough strong bullish positions or enough strong bearish positions that I'm now not trying to, let's see, I'm now in a position where I'm trying to cultivate which one of those positions are the best versus whether to be in them or not. Len, wait till I go to the live charts. I don't want to keep everybody here all night. So anyways, but I will stay here until people fall asleep. So here's 2+2 analysis. We recommended VET today because look what happened yesterday. Here's your best friend gap up. And when it did that, back up through the T-line, what type of pattern could we see setting up? Well, there was our J-hook pattern. So if it opened positive today, we wanted to be buying immediately because it was confirming this signal, it was confirming our pattern. So this is not anything difficult. You don't have to be a sophisticated technical analyst to see what chart patterns are setting up or what signals are setting up. All you have to do is recognize a signal. This is what we call a RARE process, research analysis reverse engineering, which means yesterday DVAX popped big, a best friend signal. Now the benefit of having a chat room like ours during the day that's open all day long, people say, oh, look at DVAX. Well, if it's trading up here, now we could go to our 10-minute chart and say, oh, are they still buying this on a best friend signal? But you might not have found this on your scan the night before, but somebody mentioned it, you can see what pattern is setting up. But the RARE process is research analysis, reverse engineering. Why did this do this? So you go back and see what the news was, and they got, I guess, approved for some of their COVID vaccines in Europe or someplace. So when you find that out, you say, well, is this going to produce more upside? And yes. Oh, so I'm sorry, I didn't finish the moving averages. Sorry about that. The 34 EMA works relatively effectively. Again, this is a process of saying, all right, what do I want to have on my chart? I don't want to have it all cluttered up. But it works relatively effectively. The T-line is, I mean, I could take everything else off this chart and just leave the T-line and the signals, and I could trade very effectively, extremely effectively. The 3T line is just kind of a confirming indicator for the T-line. Again, the further away you move from the T-line, the more effective the 3T line works. Or if you're ready to buy and you see a buy signal and the 3T line comes back up through the T-line, that's just a little bit added confirmation that the confirmation the bulls have taken control. All right, so this one I'd still be a buyer of on positive trading tomorrow. These are live, or these are current charts. So we recommended Angie's list. Look where your doji best friend gap out occurred, or gap out occurred right here at this breakout. What else did it do? Came up right through the 50. What did it tell us with a strong best friend signal? Where do you think your next target was? Probably up to the 200. Well, today it got there and plus some. So again, it's putting us in situations where the probabilities, as long as you stay above the T-line, is that you're going to be in a strong price move. Something more than just a slow, steady uptrend during a slow, steady market uptrend. CRM, rare. Went back, news was they raised their guidance. So they did a best friend breakout. What do you think is going to happen here? Wave 3. So anytime I see this best friend breakout, it tells you there's a new dynamic in that price move. So if I happen to be long and I close it out in here, I'm buying back. This resistance level isn't acting as resistance. Where do you think the next target's going to be? Probably back up to the 200. This is what this one did today, a J-hook pattern. But look what started the uptrend. Again, your best friend breakout through the T-line, bullish confirmation the next day. How long would you stay in this one? You never would have closed out. Maybe you would have closed it out right there. But then the next day it did a bullish harami, telling you the selling had stopped, and you could see the J-hook pattern setting up. So if I close it out here, I'd probably be buying it back here. PAVM gapped up today. Doji gap out through that resistance level. What do we expect? Wave 3. So this is basically saying if you just use the best friend signal, it's not like you're going to sit around waiting for that signal to occur. They occur all the time. And the results are usually very strong price moves. BlackBerry, best friend, gap up through the T-line, through the 50, through the 200. And what else was there on this chart that told us this was a good place to be buying? It kind of bounced up off this support level right there. Whoops, how come my chart doesn't scroll down? All right. What's the interval on this chart? These are daily. Now, you're not going to see best friend signals on your intraday charts because obviously the price is moving consistently or continuously. But what you do have is, if you're a swing trader like myself, I'm looking for the charts that have the biggest upside potential in the time frame that the market's going to be heading up. So the first ones I look for, does this work the same in reversals? Yes. A bearish best friend tells you there's a lot of force to the downside. I was trying to find some before I finish this out. PCT today did a best friend break up through the 50, sitting right here at this resistance level. The Stochastic's coming up. So what would be the criteria tomorrow? Well, if this started trading positive, breaking this level, confirming your best friend, tells you that this downtrend's over. You're going to be in an uptrend. You might see that one on the recommended list. AVXL, best friend, closed right here at the 50. If it opens positive tomorrow, what's the conclusion? The 50 is not acting as resistance, and it's confirming your best friend signal. Just observe the obvious. A doji gap up off the 50. Where do you think they were buying? They were buying at the 50 support. Closed right here at a breakout level. If I happened to be watching this, I probably wouldn't have because that would have been a nothing chart. But if I had scanned for this on this night and found this pattern, very simple. If it opens positive the next day, what's it telling me about my resistance level? They're buying. Do you use volume to confirm strength? No. The volume is already built into my universe of stocks. I'm looking for stocks that are trading greater than 5 and trade more than 200,000 shares a day. First of all, greater than 5 is because most brokerage firms do not margin stocks less than 5. And I know that every time I put on a trade, the probabilities are greatly in my favor. I'm going to make money with that trade. Now remember, that's probabilities. I know that probably 70% of the time I'm going to make money with that trade. It might be 0.3%. It might be 300%. That sounds pretty significant. But the other factor that is very beneficial with candlestick analysis is that other 30%, if the trade's not working, you're going to see a signal or see that it's not working. That's what makes you close out that trade very quickly and go on to the next one, which we forget what we're going to do that in. But major part of successful investing is knowing when your trade is working and knowing when everybody tells you to cut your losses short and let your profits run. And the 40 some odd years I've been investing, I've never seen or heard somebody tell you how you cut your losses short and let your profits run. With candlestick common sense, it becomes very easy. So anyways, now I got way off track. Oh, what was it? This one, PCT. If this opens positive after this gap up, that tells me wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 is definitely going to be breaking this downtrend. It's already broken through the 50. We recommended Ruckus a while ago, and it never really closed below the T-line. Now, you could have taken profits right here because you had a doji in the overbought area. Where's your safety stop? At the low of the doji. You could have been buying back here. And look what it's doing. It's using the T-line as support in your next move. Some institutions won't buy less than $10. Yeah. But Bill, we probably won't be buying stocks that are institutional traders like 3M or Coca-Cola because the magnitude of their movement is so slow that unless you're trading options or doing option spreads, you're probably better off finding the ones that have, if I'm going to buy a stock with a good price pattern or signal, I want to see that the upside potential is 10% or greater and hopefully 40% versus one that might be up 10% over the next month and a half. Do you start buying after the first 30 minutes of the market opening? Gary, we just did did we do it last night? Our entry and exit strategies. It all depends on how the market is opening based upon what we think the trend should be. So bottom line to all this is that the best friend signal shows enough support or enough strength. It provides that extra analysis of what is the probabilities of a pattern occurring, gives you that added advantage. And it allows you to find the exact timing for strong trade entries. Doesn't matter whether the doji is red or green. No, the doji is just a wee little trading body, which illustrates there's indecision. It doesn't matter whether it's a red or green body. Eric, yes, this is all being recorded. Okay, so are there any questions on the best friend signal? Sometimes what appears to be a best friend changes to a bearish engulfing if the stock falls as the day goes on. Yeah, but Bill, you're going to be able to kind of assess that if the market is all of a sudden cratering and what you bought on a positive open is starting to drift back, if it comes back down through the doji, that's telling you, yeah, you're not in the right direction. Close it out. That gap up did not work. Okay, let's go to some live charts here. Whoops, I almost had it. Okay. Hold on for a second. Wait for your individual requests. When you hear me say, Jim, do the double line, then you put it in. And so I've got a bunch there. Oh, and before I forget, on October 2nd, we're going to be doing one of our mini trainings. They are usually $47 for usually our hour, which turns into 2 hours. Except we're going to do this one for free, because we got a lot of people asking about the different strategies you could use. So we're going to kind of do a quick session on what option strategies do you use with the appropriate candlestick pattern or signal. So we're doing it for free because I go on, I'm going to get off track here again. I go on I'm living here in Pittsburgh. H.J. Heinz is obviously a big Pittsburgh company. And so it's just been recently that I read the history about H.J. Heinz, who started at the age of 12 to take his mother's horseradish, which back then was kind of a crummy product. But he had a couple very simple marketing techniques. Everybody else back then, I guess glass was green, so you couldn't see what sawdust and that type of stuff was in its fillers. So he put his in a clear bottle, and it was a high quality product so everybody could see it, and that's how he's got a business that grew fantastically. So we're going to do the same thing. Everything we do in candlestick analysis is just common sense. And so if you take some very simple options trading strategies and apply it, I mean, you're going to put yourself in situations where the probabilities are much greater that you're going to make money with that type of trading. So the reason we're doing it for free is we're putting everything in a clear glass bottle to show people kind of the quality that you can get out of a candlestick analysis. JQ, don't leave your day job. This is East Coast Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. All right, so first step in your analysis, which way is the market going? Well, we could see that we were in the oversold area. They gapped it down. Here's one of the basics you want to learn about candlesticks. When is the options webinar? It'll be October 2nd, a Saturday. We're planning on it being an hour, which means it will probably be somewhere between 2 and 2.5 hours. Oh, Dave, we will have it. We just didn't have it tonight. We'll have it. So watch the Monday or Thursday night newsletters. We'll have it in there. And that event will be recorded also, yes. But 12 major signals. There's 50 or 60 candlestick signals. We've narrowed it down to 12, or I've narrowed it down to 12. 6 longs and 6 shorts. And the inverted hammer has a very compelling statistic. If you see an inverted hammer in the oversold area and they trade it positive the next day, you have about a 95% probability or greater that it's going to go higher. The trend's going to go higher. That's exactly what happened. Not only did you have the inverted hammer trading positive, then you had your morning star signal. So today's positive trading was not a surprise. It was confirming this signal. On top of that, you did have that little kicker type signal in the NASDAQ yesterday, where it opened at the same place it opened the previous day and went south, opened and went positive, and then gapped up today. And so here is the confirmation. The one thing that you want to know about the T-line is, statistically, and again, this is just, I say statistically, observation from using it for over 20 years, is that if you close, the probabilities are extremely strong that you're in an uptrend. If you close below the T-line, the probabilities are extremely strong you're going in a downtrend. Notice best friend signal is a bullish engulfing plus a gap up, but today you said doji plus gap up is best friend. Do we need to consider both signals our best? Notice best friend signal is bullish engulfing. Now, a bullish engulfing is just a bullish engulfing. A best friend signal is a doji plus a gap up. Okay, so you had a trend kicker signal, and today you closed above the T-line on the NASDAQ. The probabilities are extremely strong that as long as you're above the T-line, you're in an uptrend. If this opens positive tomorrow, what's it doing? Confirming this uptrend and telling you this resistance level is now being breached. Now, bullish engulfing signal followed by a gap up is still a very strong signal. Bullish engulfing signal is what is one of the 12 major signals. Okay, so things that are in the portfolio right now. Look at the gap up from blue, and this is very simple entry. Your doji rule, if it opens positive, is trading positive. And then look what it did today. It gapped out through this level. You could still be buying this based upon wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 on positive trading tomorrow. We started buying, I was buying some calls on life on the close today. Because look what happened. After they took profits, told you the profit taking was over. Now look what your uptrend is doing. Not only are you above the T-line, but they can't even close it below the T-line. It could be a shooting star, but they gapped up. It's not like that you're up at the top of a trend. They just gapped out of this level. Had this been something where it consistently moved up and then you saw the shooting star, that would be a little bit more indicative. When have bearish harami at the end of an uptrend, possible reversal versus in the middle of a trend, continuous of a downtrend, which is more reliable? It's much more reliable based upon where your stochastics are. Remember, a signal is not a signal unless it's occurring in the right conditions of the trend. So obviously a sell signal doesn't mean anything if it's occurring in the oversold area. A buy signal doesn't mean anything if it's occurring in the overbought area. AMEH. Observe the obvious. A morning star signal. Right smack dab on the 50. What type of pattern is it setting up? We recommended this because if it opened positive, what was it telling us? The J-hook pattern was in progress. Same scenario on Angie's list. There's your J-hook pattern. DOCN. There's your J-hook pattern. Now this makes for an excellent entry strategy. Look where it closed as a doji. And what do we know about the doji rule? The price is going to move in the direction how they open after a doji. So if this opens positive, you can be buying immediately because you're probably going to have a doji sandwich, which means this day right here will be the same magnitude as this day, number one. And number two, it's telling you the J-hook pattern's confirming you're still in a good uptrend. AEHR we recommended a while ago. Look at your little best friend gap up. Notice that it never closed below the T line. So as long as it stays above the T-line, you stay long. And after hours, it was trading up here. So the T-line is a very strong indicator to keep you in a trade, because you get so many people, or I hear so many people say, should we be taking profits here? And the answer is, that is the big faux pas of most investors. They take profits because they have profits, which has nothing to do with what the price move is going to do. What we want to do is find out when that price move is over and then take profits and go on. SNPX. You can see the fry pan bottom. And where was the obvious place to tell you everybody else that may not be watching a fry pan bottom, but what were they waiting for? They were waiting for to break through the 50. So there was our break right there, telling you, look at all your dojis, little fry pan bottom. We could be buying here and then be buying here. So, Andy, yeah, hold on. Let me go through, on the short side. You can see the dumpling top, opposite of a fry pan bottom. If this opens lower tomorrow, what's it telling you? You've got a bearish doji sandwich. Chad, if you have problems, yes, email abraham@candlestickforum.com, and he'll make sure you're getting what you're supposed to be getting. You should be getting the morning and afternoon comments every day. Then you should be getting the mail outs from Monday night and Thursday nights. And then anything we do, you should be getting the recordings on those. So you can short Weight Watchers on a lower open tomorrow, a bearish doji sandwich, and what does a dumpling top usually tell you? That there's going to be a hard slam to the downside. We bought puts on BLI today, because there's your bearish J-hook pattern. So, bought puts, even though the Dow was up 500 points, still like to have a short positions in, just as kind of a padding, a hedge. So let's go through the biggies real quick. Tesla, still nothing there. I mean, if you're long, you can stay long, but you can see there's a resistance level. But also, the doji gave us that doji rule that if it opens positive, probably going to do a doji sandwich. What's that tell you about that resistance level? They're going through the resistance. Yeah, you might check your junk. Check your junk mail and make sure you're not getting caught in there. Let's see. I'm going to do Apple. Needs to open positive tomorrow. Amazon, I wouldn't be long or short, but at least it's telling you they're buying right now. Is it just me, or is sound choppy? Maybe I'm talking choppy. Nvidia. Observe the obvious. A doji right off the 50. There's your scoop type pattern. You can still be buying this one on positive trading. And Netflix. There's your kicker type signal. If this opens positive, your J-hook pattern is in progress. Andy, no, I don't use MACD. MACD is a slightly lagging indicator. Now, I've got some charts where I can overlay it as a histogram down here. So I have MACD on and stochastics. but I don't pay attention to them. They just act like an added fluff, since I can put them on there without distracting anything. But no, I don't use MACD as a anything as an indicator. Stochastic. The signals themselves are the top criteria. Stochastics are a good confirming indicator. All right, let's go through a few real quick. Or you can see the fry pan bottom breakout on EEIQ. How long do you hold on to this one? As long as they don't close it below the T line. CLS. There's your kicker signal. There's your breakout level. I'd still be a buyer of this one on positive trading tomorrow, because that would tell you the kicker signal, and breaking this level, maybe your next target is up, back up into the trend. MRM, that's getting ready for a message. Remember, a message is they've gapped it up, doesn't look good, they were selling it off, profit taking, but what was the message? They gapped it up. They're trying to get in. So what we watch for is that profit taking to be over. So that gives you information that they've gapped it up, profit taking. What do we watch for? The profit taking to be over, and that enthusiasm or that message that they were buying with great enthusiasm now is in progress. Okay. Marin is another one where there's the message. Now look what's happening. They're starting to buy. You can start buying this if they start trading positive from here. Okay, just a few more and then I'll take. So Saba, kind of a bottoming action. There's a gap right there. That would be your first target, just above the 34. Then your next target would be the 50. GSM. If it opens positive after doji, 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 wave 3 in progress. All right, remember, we don't want to do individual requests until I say, Jim, do the double line. Then you put your requests in. And I'll get to all of them. So there's your Morningstar type signal gap up. That one's probably got a 45 degree. And GOEV. That's your hammer signal gap up. So if this opens positive, what's it telling you? It's confirming your reversal and telling you the 50 is not acting as resistance. Do we aggravate you as much as the cat does? Not nearly as much. Okay, so right now, the number one analysis that you make every single day is which direction you think the market's going. You've got to drive us to drink. That's right. I don't use RSI. I don't need to. Now, if I wanted to put RSI down here, I could. And it's not, remember, the signals are your top criteria. Whatever you want to use to add to that, go ahead and put it on. If you like RSI versus stochastics, use RSI. Or if you like RSI and stochastics, put both of them on. Letting know, it takes this long. No, it doesn't even take this long. It takes this long to look at the Dow, look at the NASDAQ, look at the S&P 500, and look at the transportation index. That all takes a total of 10, 12 seconds. Now, a lot of people say, well, why do you use the Dow? It's only 30 stocks. because everybody watches the Dow. If somebody that's just, everybody says, oh, the Dow is up, they use the Dow. That's the indicator. We're not trying to pinpoint exactly which index is acting better than the others. We're just analyzing whether the market's heading up or heading down. So unless you're just trading the futures of the Dow or the NASDAQ, I want to know if the Dow is heading up, and if so, I want to be scanning for more long positions than short positions. So right now, it's pretty obvious that there's been a reversal, and we're above the T-line. And again, the T-line rule says as long as we're above the T-line, the probabilities are we're in an uptrend. Lenny's still doesn't really matter. You're trying to analyze real quick whether the market's in an uptrend or a downtrend. There will be times when the Dow is up and the NASDAQ's down. What does that tell you? There's no major change of investor sentiment. The trend that is in progress will probably still move in that direction. All right. Let's see. I'm getting a private message. Yeah, membership to the website is not that expensive. It's like $97 a month, or you can buy longer periods for cheaper. But with that, the chat rooms are open every day. We got 2 chat rooms, the options room and the main room, which is very effective if you're learning how to use candlesticks, because people in the main room have got some people in there that have been trading candlesticks for years, and they're going to point out, just because they pointed out, that XYZ, look at XYZ, it's trading up big today. And you look at it and you see that it's like a kicker signal. Now you've got more eyes to find good trades for you. Plus, it's a place where if you have a question about something, you can ask the question. You have people answering it, and I monitor the chat rooms all day. I usually come in for an hour or 2 at lunch, and then another half an hour on the close. We have private, or not private, but member sessions where we do live training on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. We have the members live group session on Monday nights. But we do things like stop loss application, entry and exit strategies to improve your probabilities. What are all the others? Scanning, how to use gaps, how to use the moving averages, things that dramatically improve your outlook of or how to improve your probabilities of being in the right trade at the right time. Can you cover the cost of your membership? Oh, okay. Oh, it's a statement. All right. Okay. So right now, there are a lot of good, I mean, we can definitely see the bullish sentiment has come back into the market. And it may be in things not necessarily that you would trade, but if you can see Apple's heading up, Amazon's heading up, they might not have good trading charts right now, but just the fact that they're being bought is another indicator that the bulls have taken control. Okay, so I guess with that, Jim, let's go ahead and do the double line. And in 4.6 seconds, do the next double line. Oh, I see somebody jumped the gun. But that's a good looking chart. There's your Morningstar signal, consolidation. J-hook, afraid to be buying that one. That's a good looking chart. Blue, isn't this a sell if the trade? Yeah, if it trades down lower tomorrow, you could come out of it, but you're still above the T line, so it might be profit taking. So if this opened lower tomorrow, you can close it out and then wait to see if it comes back to the T line. Roku opened up higher, but then traded off. So here's part of that common sense as far as your entry strategy. But if you saw this open positive, what do you want to see happening? The bull's in control. Well, as soon as it starts trading lower, what color is that candle? It's red. It's telling you they aren't buying. So when do you buy this? When it comes back up through the open. Nash, this is what we call a nothing chart. This is absolutely nothing. I wouldn't be long or short. There's absolutely no direction. You got a big bullish candle. This is why I usually wait to see if there's going to be confirmation next day. They did a bearish harami. What's that tell you? The buying stopped. I wouldn't be long or short this one. PayPal, that's a hammer gap up, almost an island reversal. It's pretty much an island reversal. You can draw right around it. That one you could be buying on positive trading. ACN, J-hook pattern. You could be buying this one with the expectation it's going back up into the channel. And that's kind of a breakout of this level. You can stay long on this one. Gear. You could be buying this one on positive trading, then use the T-line as your stop. Kaput, nothing yet. You've got a morning star signal. You can buy if it starts coming up through the 50-day moving average. There's your doji sandwich breakout. This one you could be buying. Just then watch to see what happens once you get back up to the 50. ACBL, ABCL, you just stay long. You're up there, you're not in the overbought area. I would just stay long and use the T-line as your stop. JD.com, no, Henry, I wouldn't be shorting it. There's nothing telling you right now that there's any selling pressure. If you were short, I would have covered it yesterday. I definitely would have covered it today. So I wouldn't be long or short. You're in the oversold area. It's time to be out of that trade. Rolls Royce. I don't think RR is that simple. Well, it is. But it's not bringing up anything. Sorry. CLR, yeah, J-hook type pattern. Whoops, hang on, this is... So the J-hook pattern is just a very effective uptrend because it tells you there's not exuberance in here. They take profits, they head back up. You can stay long on this one. Hood, either a doji sandwich. No, it's not a doji sandwich because the doji sandwich usually is above the previous close. You can still buy it though on a positive trading because you can see it's doing kind of a fry pan bottom. So you can buy in positive trading. If I was going to buy, I'd probably wait for it to come back up through the high of today. I'd rather have it confirmed. Vail, that's still in a downtrend. So if you're short, notice that it's never been able to close back up above the T-line. Gerard, I don't think that's going to come up over here. HRV SF. No, sorry about that. And ACB, nothing there. Probably wouldn't be, if you're short, you can stay short, but if it opens positive tomorrow, I'd cover the short. Somebody was asking about TLRY. That one had a Morningstar signal and a gap up, except it closed lower. I wouldn't be buying this one until it comes back up through today's open. ENVX, stay long. ERJ, that one you could be buying on positive trading, breaking out through this level. That gap up apparently was news. And BlackBerry, another one with the best friend signal, can be bought on positive trading. Salesforce, also a best friend. I would suspect they're heading back up into that trend channel. Yeah, not so much the fact that you have a series of dojis. The fact that you had a doji gap up is what you want to be analyzing. Uber, you stay long, but right now, just as a safety stop, I'd probably put a stop just below today's low, because logic says if it comes back through there, they're coming back down to test to see if the 50 is going to act as a support level. And PLTR, J-hook pattern, you stay long. Fuel cell, you can be buying this one now that it's broken up through the 50. FedEx, stay short. If I was short, I'd probably put a safety stop at today's high. But you can see what's happening with this downtrend. So where do most people sell? They panic sell at the bottom. If you're short, have your safety stop in place. SIVB, is this still considered a best friend? No. No, just a good steady uptrend staying above the T line. Oh boy, let me make this a little bit smaller. Yeah, you could buy this one. It is a fry pan bottom type setup. Buy back Nucor, not until you see a buy signal and a close back up above the T line. As long as you're below the T line, consider that you're still in a downtrend. Alcoa, nothing of any great consequence here. If you're long, I would stay long. You could be buying it on positive trading, just telling you that it's staying above the T line also. Breakout on DR and Darden. Did a doji. I can't see where the doji actually closed. There's the close. You can buy it on positive trading, meaning a positive open. Then you don't want to see it close back below the doji. Nothing great on this one. And it's not really a great looking chart. The reason is it really doesn't have a trend. Ugh. I'd probably be trading something else that has more of a identifiable trend to it. That is somewhat not quite a best friend. Yeah, I guess you'd consider it a best friend. The fact that they opened it above the high and it came up through the T line. That one you could be buying. Advanced auto, fry pan bottom, stay long. We did TLRY. Wouldn't be buying it until it comes back up through today's open. Advanced Micro. You could be buying it if you like it. It's just not a very dynamic trading stock. But you could be buying it. I'd probably be doing maybe a 110, 115 spread or something. Do you lecture for stop loss? Yes. And it's just simple logic, Andy, that you can put the appropriate stop losses in, not based upon a percentage of a price move, but where would it show that there's been a change of investor sentiment? EMN, inverted hammer, yeah, somewhat. And more, not only an inverted hammer, but kind of a bullish flutter kicker. I wouldn't buy, yeah, Terry, you're ahead of me. I'd buy it if it showed that it was going to close above the T line. Oops. I don't want GAR, I want CAR. That's kind of a fry pan bottom. You stay long on this one. We did Apple. Apple, I'd be a buyer of this on positive trading because of the doji sandwich, doji rule, but then just watch to see what happens at the 50. Tesla we did. I'd buy this one if it trades above today's high, breaking out through that resistance level. Marna, you could get ready to buy this one. There's nothing wrong with it. Just want to make sure it breaks out through this level. Johnson & Johnson, I wouldn't be long or short. It's basing, but there's no buying. Is XEPE. That's, you stay long. But now you get a little bit cautious because look how far away you've moved from the T line. I'd start watching for some profit taking. DBI, if you're long, it has to open positive. If it opens lower, it's telling you the 50 is acting as resistance. It's likely coming back. So if this opened lower tomorrow, I'd close out the position and wait for it to come back to the T line. Kind of the same scenario here. Doji. Use the doji rule. If this opens lower, the probabilities are that you're still trading it off. BTVT, nothing dynamic there. Just make sure your volume is hefty. I usually don't want to be trading a dollar stock unless it's trading more than 1 million shares a day. Let's see, which ones are we going to use? Gold. That's the, am I looking at this right? Yeah, gold is still below the T line. It's still heading lower. These are the December contracts. Same scenario with silver. Nothing here. Is there a link for STR? I don't know what STR is. Is that a symbol? Upstart had a nice fry pan bottom breakout, and ever since then it's never closed below the T line. That's not coming up. Yeah, that's on kaput. It is a morning star signal. It's not a best friend. So I wouldn't buy it until I see it definitely closing above the 50. So for candlestick analysis, you don't need more than 3 weeks of candles to make your analysis. Yeah, whatever time frame. I mean, I can make this chart as big or small, but this is the important part right here. What's it doing right now? So let's see, I'm trying to think of which ones. So I can go back further and say, oh, they came out of a fry pan bottom. Now they're trying to go into wave 3. But again, this is the important part. Chris, yes, this is being recorded. And BX, that's a nothing chart. It would not be long or short. No direction. And that's the whole point of using candlestick analysis, is to get a much greater probability of which way a price is moving. If you're looking at something you can't tell which way it's going, close out a trade or go on to something else. Crone came up but did an indecisive day. I'd be more apt to be a buyer if it comes up through today's high. Just want to make sure the bulls are definitely taking control. ENPH. Bullish left-right combo. Doji. Simple. If it trades positive, you can be buying it. What series would you use for a bull call? WB, that's way too much analysis for doing something quick. OCGN, that's a nothing chart. It had the breakout, but then immediately, so if I had bought on this day, which I wouldn't have because it didn't really do a signal, but the next day it did a bearish harami, what's that tell me right away? The buying had stopped. Phillips 66, you could be buying this one. I probably wouldn't buy it, though, until it gets up through the 50, which is obviously a resistance level. ConocoPhillips, that's more compelling. That one did bounce off the 50 and headed up. Pro Trucking, that's a nothing chart. There's just nothing on that chart that would make you want to be long or short. NVAX, that one you can be buying with the expectation that they bounced off the 50. Stochastic's coming up. They're through the T-line. At least they're coming back up into that trend channel. Target, that's a nothing chart. No direction. I'd be someplace else. And when I say I'd be someplace else, on a simple scan, each night you're going to find 10, 15, 20 good charts. If you got one that doesn't have anything going for it, the whole point of investing is to have your money in the best possible profit situation. Move on to something else. Merck, you could be buying this one on positive trading. Broke the downtrend with a little kicker type signal. Nvidia is good for a call, yes. Scoop type pattern bouncing right off the 50. If it opens positive, breaking this level, look for another wave like this. Wynn Resorts, I was short Las Vegas Sands, but they were starting to show too much strength down in this area, so it closed out. Wouldn't be buying it, would definitely be out of the short position. Wouldn't be buying until they can prove they can get up through the T-line. Yes, Chad, you were ahead of me. Romeo, kind of a fry pan bottom. If you're buying it, you want to watch to see what happens once it gets to the 50, which would be filling that gap. And Walter, that one you can buy. Morning star signal, bullish confirmation. See if they can bring it back up to the 50. You could, if you want to be participating in coffee, yes, this is the way to do it, is to buy the coffee index. Hertz, not Hertz, budget. Stay long on this one. Sophie, you stay long. Your safety stop now would be at today's low. Wouldn't want to see it come back through there. If it did, it was telling us this level right here was acting as resistance. What you want to see is it open positive, giving you possibility of a doji sandwich, which would take you through the 200 and through that level. Okay, stock trading resources. All right. Why is KLP not a best friend? It has a doji gap up. KPLT. No, it didn't open above the trading range. It's a morning star signal. A best friend has a gap up. I mean, a gap up above the open. You could see a gap there. It's still a morning star signal, but it's not a best friend. Yeah, it's got to at least come up past the trading range of the doji. An NVTA, just stay long. Use the T-line. Don't let it close below the T-line. Freeport, I'd be out of the short position, but I wouldn't be going long. WPRT, yeah, I said that right. You could be buying this one. Doji, doji, doji. You want to make sure it gets through this downtrend. We did Apple. SDC, nothing there. So once you saw that failure right here, the prospect was when they go through a resistance level, they'll come back and test it to see if it's going to act as support. Right now, I wouldn't do anything, but if you see the next buy signal right here off the 50, that's telling you exactly what everybody was waiting to see if the 50 was going to act as support. If it does, what becomes your next target? The next target everybody's watching. So best friend must gap up above the high of the doji, yes. Facebook, I would stay short. You're getting toward the oversold area. If I was short, I'd have a safety stop at the high of today. An AUD, you can stay long on this one. You can see kind of your bobble breakout. Okay, I think we got them all. Well before midnight. All right, watch your strong charts tomorrow. The reason we've been buying QuantumScape down here is because it was basing. but the more activity that stock has as far as announcements, the higher. I mean, this stock was at 103 or 130 or something at one time. Still think it's got big upside. What was the other one that I was? Well, Shazam. Now I can't even remember. Oh, we didn't even do SFIX. So that is a best friend. There's the high of your doji, and they gapped it way up above it. So SFIX probably has more upside. All right, everybody, thank you for showing up. Let's see. This Saturday, Metastock has got, I'll be on at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Metastock has a one of those multiple speaker days where they got 8 or 10 speakers. Oh, that was it. Thank you. There it is. We'll be ready to buy this one on Positive Trading. Kevin, we'll have all the links for signing up before then. RK, I don't know. I'll try to get that in the chat room tomorrow. Okay, everybody have a good evening. We will see you bright and early in the chat rooms tomorrow. Is SFIX a short